So, welcome to the podcast, gents. We've got quite an exciting one, first one that we've done together. The purpose of today is just to kind of talk about some key topics where we're looking at men's mental health, which is coming up in November. And then also this coming Wednesday, which if you're watching this on a different date, it's Suicide Prevention Week or day on Wednesday, the 10th of September. So, welcome. Thanks for coming down. I'll just do a little quick introductions who we got around the table. So, starting off with yourself.
Hi, I'm Jamie from Parogon, obviously, because it's a Parogon podcast. I'm the exec chef.
Beautiful.
Great. Ian, I'm the ops director at Parogon. Can't wait to have some good chats.
And I'm Jake. I'm from a national mental health charity called Chasing Stigma, which is working alongside Parogon. I'm very proud of that partnership.
Beautiful. And then lastly, my name's Chris, L&D manager at Parogon Group. And like I said, I'm really excited to get together today and see where things go. So it's quite an open conversation, talking about men's mental health. I think that's the main thing, because I feel like we don't talk about it quite enough. So if we don't do it, I think a lot of our team members within Parogon might not. So I'm kind of opening up to the table. How are we all feeling?
All good. Mental health's good. Wasn't before when I was trying to park, but it's all good now. You're kicking off about what's important to us about mental health.
Yeah, I think we'll start off with that key topic.
Yeah, well, I'll start then. So for me, the reason I feel mental health's important, especially in Parogon in kitchens, is because, obviously it's very similar to physical health, but physical health's a lot more obvious to see, isn't it? You can't see inside people's mind, and to be performing at a top level like you need to be in kitchens and in the hospitality industry, because it's all goes, all the pressures, busy all the time, staff shortages, this, that and the other, never mind like what's happening in your personal life. So obviously being physically fit and healthy to do your job is just as important as being mentally fit and healthy to do the job. And I think even like myself, I've learned a lot, and I don't know what in the short space of time, it wasn't like, I think what I thought mental health, I think sometimes the word mental health gets used maybe in the wrong context. I think mental health's like a positive, really, because it's about your emotional well-being, your social well-being, your cognitive well-being, but then like obviously other factors that people use the term mental health for aren't necessarily mental health, but I suppose it's affecting your mental health, so then you're not fully performing. So I think it is like I think people don't think I open up enough or talk enough, or I'm maybe hard to read or whatever, but I'm always there to listen, so I do care about it, and so I thought that's why it's important to me.
Cool.
You don't like the fact that I'm just staring at you when I say it?
Yeah, staring into my soul. Like, I need a chat after this. I think I'm here to, within regards to mental health, I don't know too much about it. What signs to look out for, how to speak to people, especially as mates. I know you all pretty well, but I feel like we don't speak about mental health. Like, we all have down days. I deal with my sort of bad days in my own specific way, but I'm a pretty positive guy. But I don't know if you would ever see the signs in someone like me or someone like I don't know. I think that's where you come in, Jake. What are the signs? What are the things that you have to look out for?
Yeah, I think there's a few things that have been picked up on really quickly here. The point that you were just making there is absolutely spot on about, we talk about our physical health a lot more openly, but we also talk about our physical health as an aspiration, as something that we want to look after. There's things that we can do to be as mentally fit as we possibly can be. But when it comes to our mental health, most people only talk about mental health when they're talking about mental illness or poor mental health, depression, anxiety, suicides, eating disorders, whatever that might be. We don't really talk about it normalising, humanising the same way that we do with our physical health. So we don't talk about what can we do every day to make sure that our mental health is good. And I think coming back to your point there about signs and symptoms and having a conversation, it's so much easier to have a conversation when things are good. And so we will often talk about feeling good and not having any worries, because it feels a lot more comfortable for us to do that. And so sometimes when you are having a conversation with somebody, or you yourself are struggling, and somebody will say to you, how are things? Your automatic is to go, yeah, great. And I think it's finding out what's behind that is what's going to be the challenge for most of us. You mentioned there that you didn't know anything about mental health. You don't really know anything about signs and symptoms. I'd say the vast majority of us don't. I think that's part of the problem, is that we're not taught in school. We're not taught necessarily in the workplace, but we all have it. And so I think in terms of what are the signs, what can we look out for? I think if we're talking about it from a friendship point of view, or you're talking about it from a workplace point of view, we have to build that trust up when things are good, not just waiting until when things are bad. You know, there will be signs that we can all look out for in ourselves or in others. You know, if people just don't see in themselves, not included as much, you know, maybe people who don't seem as motivated, who aren't given their all in the workplace. It may be people who maybe are starting to seclude themselves, turning down invites and not kind of being around as much. But then at the same time, it can be people who maybe are around more and acting a little bit more, you know, maybe drinking more or being a bit more over the top. And so it's really, really hard, because it's not a one-size-fits-all approach to all of this. But the point is, we need to build that trust amongst ourselves, not take that kind of that first answer when we ask people, how are you? And it's kind of delving a little bit deeper in that, and we have to do that through trust, and it takes a bit of time to do that.
I think one of the things that I've kind of picked up on, and I was trying to think of things to come to this podcast with, is like I find it personally difficult to open up to people because we work with each other as well. So all of our friends in hospitality are pretty much mates. So, you know, we're all in like senior positions within the business, but if someone would say to me, how are you doing, Chris, today? I would probably just automatically lie and say, yeah, I'm great, even if I'm having a down day. But I think to kind of bring it into Parogon's perspective and hospitality in general, because of our working hours and the people that you work with so much, you're friends with people that you work with, so your bosses, your mates, your colleagues. And I think that's where hospitality, I think, will come in more, because you don't have many non-industry mates, because you're in the business with them 48 hours, you know, 50 hours plus.
I find, like, I don't know, that's obviously different for everyone, but I find it easier speaking to people about issues with their mental health or struggles they've got with the people I actually work with, rather than friends. Like, I wouldn't, like, put some of the questions and some of the probing questions, and some, like, when I'm checking if people are actually all right, I find easier at work, and I have more conversations with people at work if they're actually all right, and sit down with them and try and help them or whatever, rather than I wouldn't do that with my friend. Do you know, like, I mean, I think it's because you do spend so much time around these people. You spend more time with people you work with than you do your own family and friends, don't you? So I suppose you create more of a bond with them, and yeah, you can read. I feel you can read those signs more and stuff like that, and yeah.
Can I ask a question of everyone? And there's no wrong answer here. It's being open and honest. Because for context, I was exactly the same. Before I was working for a mental health charity, I knew nothing about mental health. But as men, why wouldn't you talk to somebody about whether it's your friend or a colleague? What is the reason why we generally will say, no, I'm fine, when someone asks us, even if we're not? What's the reason, would you say?
You go first.
I think for me, I think it's a sign. I think it's sometimes perceived as a sign of weakness, or I feel like I'm showing weakness if I talk to people about how I'm feeling. You know, sometimes you do get invasive thoughts, and sometimes you do find challenging periods. But in kind of my position, you kind of like, you know, you've got a team, and kind of you feel like they're looking to you for answers and looking for you to answer questions and deal with issues and problems that you can't really show that kind of like chink in the armor. You've got to be that kind of like bulletproof kind of person, which is completely wrong, I think.
Yeah, but it's a valid thought, and I think it's worth us like acknowledging those thoughts, because we all probably are thinking that, because there's a reason why we don't talk about it. What would you say for yourself?
Yeah, I think it's similar to Ian, but also like everybody's got their own problems and issues, don't they? Like sometimes it's like, I don't want to give them more. Do you know, if I've got my own problems, I don't want to put my problems and issues on them as well as their own problems and issues. And just generally in life, I like to, if I do have a problem, I like to try and resolve it myself, kind of thing. So whether that is a mental problem or a problem at work or a physical problem or whatever that problem may be, obviously if it got to a point where I couldn't resolve it myself, then I would reach out for help. Yeah, and maybe like if I did feel I needed to speak to, I'd probably speak to someone, probably not in work, probably not a friend. I probably would just go get therapy, because it's like almost like just having therapy. I'm almost like resolving my own issues just by talking to someone. They're not really doing much, but I'm sort of like coming to the problem myself, but just speaking out, open up to people. If they're opening up to me, I will then open. Do you know, like if they've had, if I'm sitting down with someone and trying to help them and whatever issues or problems they've got, and they're talking about their current scenario, whatever that may be, to try and build that trust, you know, I've probably been in a similar scenario, or I do actually understand. Obviously, don't fully understand, but you could share stuff, and then I think that helps open up and show that, although they might have this impression of you that you have got no chinks in your armor, you don't show emotion, this, that, and the other, just everybody's in the same boat in some ways, kind of thing.
Yeah, so there's feelings there of it being a weakness, of being a burden, of not wanting to share it. But what a question just kind of to everyone then is that, what if somebody you knew, somebody who's a friend of yours, a close friend of yours, a family member of yours, was struggling in silence and didn't talk to you because they felt like they didn't want to be a burden to you, because they felt like they didn't want to show any weakness, that you would think that they were weak for feeling like the way that they did? What would you say to them?
Stop being stupid, but stop being silly, basically.
Talk to us. But I think, sometimes I want somebody to ask me the question so I can talk to somebody, but it doesn't sometimes come. So I think it's difficult both ways.
I think in the nicest way possible, and I include myself here, and it's not just us around this table, it's the majority of people, we're all hypocrites, because we give advice and we don't take that advice ourselves. But what you've just mentioned there is a really, really important thing, and that's something that the reason why I kind of moved into this space was because I realised that by showing some vulnerability myself, that opened up avenues to other people to show vulnerability as well. And I think particularly when we talk about men, I think there's a big myth that men don't want to talk about their mental health. I think men do want to talk about it, but men don't necessarily know the avenues and the safe spaces to be able to do that. And I think by showing your own vulnerability, suddenly men will talk to you. Every single time since I started this and speaking about my own experience of struggling with my mental health, every single time I spoke about it publicly, whether that was going to give a talk, whether it was wherever, men would be the people who got in touch with me, or men would be the people who would be waiting behind to have a conversation with me. I've gone into all different types of industries, and hospitality is obviously a big one as well, but even like in football scenarios and construction, and I've gone in feeling like, oh God, this is going to be a horrible situation for me to go in and show this vulnerability, and some of the best conversations come from it. And so all the things that we fear about being a burden, about showing vulnerability, about being weak by showing that chink in your armour, actually by doing that, people feel a lot more comfortable and think, actually, because you've done this, now I can do this. And so you give each other that encouragement and the courage to actually speak about it. But as I said, we're all hypocrites, because we can give this advice, but we don't often take it ourselves, do we? And that's why I think it's important for us to acknowledge those feelings and the hesitations, because you're not the only one who's thinking it. But we would say to any of our friends or colleagues or family members, you know, don't think that, because that's not true. But then sometimes we think it ourselves.
Definitely. I think sometimes just actually just listening and being there for something, you don't even really have to do much. Just they feel better by just opening up and speaking to someone, and they almost, talking about being like a hypocrite, they almost sort of like help with their own problems themselves. The fact that they had someone to talk about it.
Saying it out loud, isn't it? Yeah, once you say something out loud, then you hear yourself say it. And then once you've heard yourself say it, then you can actually automatically go, okay, maybe it's not that way, or maybe actually now I've said it, maybe that does change my thinking a little bit. So yeah, so I've got nowhere to go with that now. That was just my little.
So like we know like the bits and parts of, like, we've heard you speak at like the awards. So Jake, I think this is a question for you, like for the point of like the video, I think it'd be good to talk about your past experience and, you know, why Chasing the Stigma was founded, you know, what made you do it, and, you know, sort of the implications of like how many people that you've supported over the years. But yeah, I think it's kicking off with like chasing the stigma of how we can help people.
Yeah, so as I said, I never worked in the mental health space at all. I never had any understanding of mental health. I didn't learn about it in school or in any jobs or speak out to friends or family about it. So, you know, the only kind of understanding I had of mental health and how to get help and support and therapy probably came from The Sopranos, which, you know, isn't the best. But I started to struggle with my mental health. Didn't know anything about that, didn't know signs or symptoms of poor mental health until I really started to struggle. And long story short, after not really speaking to family about it or friends about it or really trying to you know, get that help and support, I actually attempted to take my own life about 13 years ago. And it was never anything that I thought that I would kind of go through or feel or experience, but I genuinely felt I had no choice. Luckily, I'm still here, but because my background was in stand-up comedy, that's what I was doing before this, my story got picked up in the press. So it started in local press and then got picked up in national press. And I was being asked to go on television and radio to talk about what I'd gone through. And my story started getting shared by millions of people. And without me really knowing anything about it, people then started to get in touch with me and they started to say, I feel the same way. And all I was doing, talking about myself. I wasn't talking about anybody else. I wasn't giving advice. I was just talking about myself. But by me talking about myself, people actually felt like I was talking about them. It resonated in them, and I realised very quickly just how many people were going through almost the same thing at the same time, or feeling like they were the only ones. But by using that lived experience and showing my own vulnerability, people were coming to me feeling like actually I could help them. But the problem was I couldn't, because I didn't know. I didn't know anything about the help and support that was available. So I wanted to create a charity that actually harnessed that lived experience to really humanise and normalise mental health as a conversation, to engage people who would never usually engage in this conversation before. You know, I didn't want to look and sound and act like a mental health charity, because I knew about certain mental health charities, but when I was massively depressed and anxious and suicidal, I didn't reach out to them because I didn't think they were for me. And so I wanted to create a charity that spoke like people, had real life faces, real life voices, to reach people in their own communities, you know, by working alongside organisations like Parogon. You know, we can reach people when they're in work, but also when they're going and enjoying a nice meal. You know, actually when they're not expecting to have a mental health message or conversation, that's where we should be going to people, reach people before they start struggling and feeling that way. But one of the problems that we had was directing people to help and support. Finding help and support really, really, really hard to do. And I just found it bizarre that we could live in a society where it's easier to find a kebab than it is to find mental health support. Like, I can travel anywhere in the country. I've come here today to Stoke. I don't know where I am, but if I want a pizza or a kebab. By the way, there's kebab shop open now. I went for a little walk. What time is it? It's 10 in the morning, and I walked past a kebab shop before. It's got the spit going.
Breakfast of champions.
Yeah, I'm going to get one on my way home. But, you know, you can be born, raised your entire life in a city and town, not know about the mental health provision that's actually on your doorstep. And then also, you know, waiting lists are high and thresholds are high. So I wanted to make it easier to find support because I knew that there was some support out there. So I put out an appeal and I said, if you offer support, tell me who you are. And I put it in a list. And then I was just had my mind blown by the amount of support that actually was available across the country. Charities, community groups, people where you can walk in and be seen and have conversations and get that help and support. And so what we wanted to do is to put that together in one list that's accessible to everyone. So we built a website, and then it eventually became an app called the Hub of Hope. And now the Hub of Hope is the biggest directory of mental health services in the country. So now we have just under 15,000 services listed on the Hub of Hope, with services of all different types. So whether that's NHS or charity or private support, whether it's for younger people through to older people, we're trying to give people all the options to help and support that's available to them. And we're now used on NHS.uk and written into government plans and the suicide prevention plan. And what we're trying to do is just work with as many people as possible to give people hope, give people options, and let them know that actually once you do have a conversation, if someone's vulnerable with you and you're vulnerable with them, once we have that conversation, we can direct them to help and support that's actually available, so they don't then have to go home and have to wait on a waiting list, or not actually get that help and support at all. Go and see the options that's around, because there's so much support out there. Obviously, everything can be better, but there is help, there is support out there.
Cool. I could listen to you all day.
My wife definitely couldn't.
So what's the process then? So if, for example, I was to get in touch with Hub of Hope, what happens? What does that look like for like a journey of, hope, I think? So what does that look like for a Joe Blogs that needs help?
Yeah, so what we want the Hub of Hope to be is this gateway to living well, to recovery, to be able to go from needing something, acknowledging something in yourself that you need that help and support, to being able to have the choice and look at what's available to you. Because again, it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. You may struggle, you may go to a GP, you may get a referral to some NHS talking therapies, but then you may wait on a list for months, and then you may go to it and I think, actually, that's not for me. And that's what happened with me. I came out of it and thought, well, that didn't work for me, so that was my only option. What we're trying to do is give people options and choice. So if you go on the Hub of Hope now, you can type in a city, town, and postcode, or just press a button that says find nearby. You can filter your searches, whether you're looking for young person support, whether you're looking for male-only support, whether you're looking for NHS or charities, whether you're looking for physical stuff. So, for example, there's mental health football leagues, there's music therapy, there's all of these different things. We want to give people all those options of choice, and then you'll be able to have a look through that, find what's right for you, and then you've got the contact details then to contact those services directly as well. Then, so it's just about choices. So if you do go to one service, or you do go to one charity or whatever it might be, then have a look at what else is available. Like if you're going to talking therapy once a week, doesn't mean that you can't go to anything else. Yeah. I think it's just giving people those options, but importantly, it's giving them the options when they actually need it, or even sometimes before they need it. Because I think if you know that there's options there, you might then be able to go, right, I know it's there, I don't need it right now, but I know it's there, and that in itself can give you so much comfort as well.
It is, what is it, prehabilitation rather than rehabilitation, isn't it?
Exactly that.
Yeah, and I think probably sometimes people have got problems, but they don't actually think the problem's big enough or warrants getting some support. And I think sometimes as well, people try one thing and then just give up. Oh, it didn't work.
Yeah,
that's it. But obviously,
exactly.
like I said, there's loads of different options because not everything works for the same people, does it? So
exactly that. I think when we talk about suicide prevention and World Suicide Prevention Day, like for me, and I constantly having to have this conversation, but for me, suicide prevention isn't always about someone who's actively suicidal. Suicide prevention is exactly what you've just said there. It's so far upstream. Like if we're able to speak to people who are just starting to feel a bit down, who starting to feel a bit anxious, who maybe are starting to talk to a doctor about maybe getting some antidepressants because they have this kind of low level anxiety or depression, that's suicide prevention. Because if we can reach people then we can prevent people from, feeling worse and things escalating until they are actively suicidal. So we got to stop waiting for people to be actively suicidal before we actually start suicide prevention work.
I think one of the things that have resonated, which yourself and Chris have said in the past, is like download the app because you don't know when you're going to need it or when somebody that you know is going to need it. So I think it's quite good to have just there, even if you're not feeling sad. It's just good to have
it's
it.
On,
it's
well,
just
it's on
like
Yapster.
Yeah. It's on Yapster.
Yeah.
You can download it separately.
Yeah.
But I think just even sharing that with somebody, just download this. Yeah, I know you sound, but you don't know when someone's going to need it. Like there's no time frame about when mental health or the bad thoughts are going to come in. It might be tomorrow, might be in a couple of years, might be 10 years down the line. And that's the thing about technology nowadays, it always stays on there.
Yeah.
So,
and we hope you never use it. We hope that you never have to use it. We hope that we're never going to be needed. But we know also the reality is that statistically, you probably will need it. Might not be for you, but it'll probably be for somebody in your life, whether that's a family member, a friend, or a colleague. So it's having that there so that it is available. I'll give you some stats about it in a bit.
So I think next part, I think it'd be good to go through past experiences. So we've got group executive chef, ops director, myself and Jake that I didn't hear as well. But we've got quite a lot of big personalities in the room. I think this is quite a nice space to share about past experiences. If you've ever gone through any difficult times and how you've kind of dealt with it, or if you haven't dealt with it, you just brushed it off as a man. But yeah, it's up to you. I've got my own experience as well. So
yeah, I think for me, I've got a variety of experiences, like personal, but then also like other people, obviously in my circles who have struggled in different ways. I think personally, talking about mental health being a positive, I'd say I think my mental health is pretty good. I think like emotionally and day to day, I'm usually pretty good. But that's not to say I don't have a bad day. And that's not to say in my life I haven't felt like giving up, whether that's not necessarily like I've never got to the point where I'm going to give up on life, but that might be a job, it might be a relationship, it might be, I don't know, just going to the gym or whatever, but sometimes I think for me, especially whatever the reaction may be, I always want to react straight away to whatever the scenario is. I think in my own experience is the best thing to do is just sleep on it. Just have one night, just sleep on it, think about it, and then decide where to go with it. Because usually, it's like what your parents tell you, teachers tell you, and think before you act. And if you just act all the time, you probably will be in scenarios, and it probably make your mental health issues even worse because you've made the wrong decision because you've not thought about it. And I think there was quite scary. There's quite a few people that are in my friendship circle that have taken their own lives, 4 in total, and most of them you didn't even see it come. You didn't even see it coming, and it's like, it makes yourself feel bad because it's like, what could you have done more to prevent that? But like I couldn't see it. They probably weren't as close to me as they were to other friends within my circle. One was closer than the others, and I did not see it coming whatsoever. For ages, it makes yourself feel bad because you're like, what could I have done differently? If I'm not talking, then they're not going to talk, and vice versa. My auntie, she tried to take her own life. Luckily, she's still around. And she lives quite far away. She lives in Scotland, so I don't see her all the time, but I try and speak to her as often as I can. For me, it's just, the only advice I can give is just sleeping on it. And also linking it back to mental health and physical health. If you're going to run a marathon, you need to fuel yourself right. You need to sleep right. And for me, they're all interlinked. All the things you do to improve your physical health would also improve your mental health as well. If you're not sleeping, you're drinking loads of energy drinks, you're not eating healthily or well or whatever, and I don't know, you're up all night playing video games or TikToks or whatever, it's not going to help. So you gotta look after. It seems selfish, but you got to look after number one, because if you don't look after yourself, then how are you supposed to help other people, whether that's in work or mental or whatever issues they may be having? So yeah.
No, spot on. Cheers, Jim.
Nice.
Ian?
Yeah, I think I've probably had some personal battles in the past. Probably early 20s was probably the worst spell. Particularly difficult. I was a head chef. I was working 60, 70 hours. Probably didn't recognize at the time that burnout is a real thing. I did that for years. Holidays weren't really a thing, 20 years ago. Went through a particular bad spell, and I think my dad these days still tries to kind of look at the warning signs, which isn't a nice thing, kind of now, it has had repercussions for the future. So any kind of warning signs, my dad's on me like a ton of bricks straight away, which I'm really grateful for. But I did have a particular bad spell. There were invasive thoughts. It is an invasion. That's kind of how I look at it. I didn't really hadn't experienced that before. Didn't really know where to turn. Didn't really know what to do. And I ended up, I didn't speak to anyone for a while. There were a couple of occasions where I probably thought about things that I shouldn't have really been thinking about, or maybe that's what prompted me to finally go and speak to somebody. And went to go and see. I was lucky enough to go and see an actual good GP, who I kind of expected to walk in and get signed off with antidepressants and things like that. But what actually happened is she listened to me. She put me in touch with a counsellor, which was one session in, and I think it's what you said earlier, when you start talking about it out loud and start acknowledging it. And there's something that kind of she said at the time that really, really stuck with me, which was, I was 21, 22, you're young and you're building resilience towards life, and there's a lot that gets thrown at you at a young age and you don't really quite know how to deal with it. And that's kind of stuck with me ever since, like resilience, you're building resilience. And that's kind of like the advice I try and give when I speak to people kind of at a younger age that kind of talk to me about things, or come to me with their problems. Is life, you're always going to suffer issues in life. You're always going to suffer setbacks, and you're building resilience towards it. But you've got to be able to have places that you can go to speak to people and find the right help, because without that, it could have been a very different story. And I think there's been that kind of experience set me up for some probably bigger setbacks in life when I got older, and I didn't quite react in the same way. I kind of understood a bit more how to deal with it, recognized it straight away, and I, instead of seeing a counsellor, I went to go and see a coach that I paid for, and I probably had 3, 4, 5 sessions, which I found incredibly useful. And when I got to the 5th session, I kind of realised that I don't need to do this anymore. Like I've spoken about my issues and problems, and I think those experiences those conversations have really helped me deal with bigger issues in the future in my life. And the kind of the go-tos are exercise. That's always a great one. Exercise is great. Understanding burnout. Sometimes you do need a week off, a couple of weeks off, which, if anyone ever finds themselves in that position at work at the moment, that's why I'm so kind of happy to say, look, take the time off, take a week off, take 2 weeks off. Don't worry about the financial aspect of things. I think that's really important too, is what kind of, when you're talking to other people, is what kind of barriers can you break down to allow them to deal with it. I think that's really important for us in our positions. A holiday, getting a holiday in every year, that kind of, because most of the time it is burnout. And like Jamie says, sleep on it. That's kind of my go-to now is, right, sleep on it. because I do find myself, and you'll probably notice this more than anything, Chris, that if I'm having a bad time or a bad day, I will go and hide away and kind of try and deal with it my own way, which might be a box set, might be, you know, eating food that I really like or something like that. But yeah, I definitely understand the warning signs now a lot better, and the people that have been in my life have really helped me to do that, which is why I think this is great, and having you know, highlighting who we can talk to is hugely important.
Do you feel like when we talk about like therapy and we talk about getting help, people may have an idea in their head of what that is. When the way that you've just spoke about it in your experience and building resilience, like, it sounds very much, you've put it in a way that actually sounds like you're just learning who you are, how you work, how you operate, like what are things for you that you need to do, and you're thinking about it as an individual. Is that kind of how you would put it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think you know, even now, like, you're still growing up. And to be honest, one of the big changes in my life was changing the environment I was in at that time. I was probably burning the candle at both ends. And this is where I first came to Parogon. The reason I came to Parogon, and it wasn't quite Parogon those days, but I was around a lot more professional people, older people that, you know, you could look up to, and you could really, you could try and mirror what they were like and what they were doing, and that helped as well, changing the environment and being around more professional, older people. I think that helps as well.
I just think it sounds so much better or easier for people to understand when we actually frame it as, you know, understanding how you work, what makes you tick, what turns you off, what motivates you, what you need, what's going to make you feel better. And if we put that into any other environment and we talk about training, and even if you put it into like a physical exercise type of regime of going, this is what I'm good at, this is what I need, this is what I need to do, this is what I need to work on, this is what I need to train, we'd be a lot more normal about that. But when we talk about it from a mental health perspective, we don't see it that way, and that's part of the stigma that's attached to it, that we see it as, you know, we're going to have to lie on a couch and talk about your dad. Like, you know, it's not these thoughts that we kind of think getting that help and support and therapy might be. It's actually allowing you to understand yourself more and build that resilience.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because when I had therapy as well, it was eight sessions, eight 1 hour sessions, one a week, whatever. And probably by the fifth or sixth one, I didn't need, like, you know, I'd sort of like, it was almost become pointless because
it served its purpose.
It served its purpose. And like, I think I probably did it again. I bet there was loads of people who, if they were in my scenario, probably thought it wasn't worth, you know, going to speak to someone about. But even just doing those 5 sessions obviously helped. And even after every session, you feel a bit better and more positive, and your outlook on life's a bit, it's better. And if you look at it like coaching, it's almost like, it's a life experience. You're almost getting another skill or ability, aren't you, to help you with tackle life or tackle work or whatever that may be, kind of thing. So
it's like a PT.
Yeah,
know,
exactly.
I've got a PT where I'll go and I'll ask for help and support on certain things because I can't do it myself.
Yeah,
I can't get the motivation myself. I can't just literally made that word up. Motivation myself. I can't do the things without being pushed. I need all of these things, and I'll pay happily to have that. And it's essentially the same type of process, just slightly shifted, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
I think from my side, like, I think when you surround yourself with positive people, there's nothing worse than like that 1 or 2 people when you get home from work and then you go out for a beer and they're just moaning and moaning and moaning. It just adds on to, you know, your own thoughts and then demoralizes you to say, even if you've had a great day and you start talking about, you know, work or like a specific shift, as well, like your partner as well. Like, that's a big part of like where my mental health changed, was having the right person and being with the right person. Like earlier on in my 20s, I was definitely with the wrong person at it on the podcast. But like, I didn't know it at the time. So I was moving jobs. I was relied on heavily. I think you had to be that person that kind of had to do everything with finances. Be the one that organised dates and everything like that, and obviously pay for everything. But like, as soon as I removed myself from that scenario, like I was definitely encased in like the wrong group of people as well. I was out quite a lot. I was drinking a lot, and there was so many things that kind of just sort of slowly chipped away at my mental health. So yeah, I just removed it and then found the right person, and then sort of like that definitely did help with the way that I was. And then I sort of picked up, golf. That's a big thing. My partner now, she'll be like, "Oh, you play golf all the time," and she understands because playing golf, I don't think about anything else but getting the ball in the hole, and that's it. And then same with gaming, like I'll lock myself away in a room and then play a game because there's so many things that add into it. It's a team environment. You're speaking to people without actually speaking in front of people, and then you've got an end goal, which is to win. And 9 times out of 10, you do win. When in normal life, you don't really get many chances to win.
Yeah.
So I think that's where it helps. I know you've said about gaming earlier, but
Yeah, well, I think it's
gaming up
obviously
at 2 in the morning.
Most things probably be positive and negative. It just depends how you use them, can't you? Like if you're an energy drink, probably be positive. If you're just having one a day, just to help you with a workout or whatever. But when you're drinking them 10 a day and you're not sleeping, then it becomes a negative. Or if you're having the gaming to have a bit of you time at like a reasonable time rather than just gaming all the way through the night and then going back to work at 9 in the morning is not exactly going to be good for you, is it? So
I definitely wouldn't recommend going out till 3-4 in the morning and then try and doing a 14-hour shift.
Probably. I mean, it was easier back when you were like 19,
Exactly.
20.
Yeah, and I think the thing about it all, especially about this industry, is like it's hard enough doing a shift stone cold sober and fully 100% fit. Never mind if you've got a hangover or you've not slept right or this, that, and the other. And I think sometimes, it's not caring what people think and just making a decision that's right for you. Like I said, you spend all the time with people and you go out for a drink after work, whatever. It's difficult to say no for a lot of people, but just say no, just go up. Like they'll all get over it. They might say something in the morning when you get back on shift, but then when you're running circles around them because they've been out all night and you're slept well and this, that, and the other, and
there's so many instances where you look at scenarios and we're like, I've been there, I've done that, I know how you're going to feel after it. And then you've got to pick them up throughout services and trust me, like if you hear about it, it's like the majority of the table has done what you've done.
Because when you are younger and you first come in the industry, you think you're probably a bit of a Superman or whatever. You're working all those hours, then you're literally up all night, and then you're working all again, and it's just on repeat, and you just think you're super. But it is going to catch up with you eventually. It'll probably catch up with some people quicker than it will do others, and
I think with
usually 2 days, like especially now in this industry, work-life balance is a lot better. You have got a lot more you time, social time. There's no need to be going out and getting smashed or doing whatever after a long shift when you're back in work the next day, kind of thing. Like, and you don't have to do stuff at night. Like, make the most of the day. Like, people like work all week, then it'll be the day off, but they'll sleep till gone 12, 3, 4 o'clock, and then they're going out night, and they haven't really recovered before they go back to work. Like, make the most of the day.
Do you think that when people are going out like that, it's because they're looking for some escapism? Is that what it is? And is it actually a case of finding that escapism elsewhere?
I think
I'm not. Well, it might be for some people. I think from my own personal experience, it's more like it's hard to switch off, isn't it, after work? Like, you're not going to go to sleep. You're sort of like just going with the crowd, aren't you? You're like, I think maybe it'd be more escapism if you're doing it maybe on your own. Like if you're just going out on your own. Well, this is just me speaking. Obviously, people got different opinions, haven't they? But I mean, it's just you're part of the team. You don't want to feel like you're not part of the team, do you? Like, especially in like smaller kitchens, independent kitchens. Especially when I was growing up, like you'd be there first thing. You'd prep all for lunch. You do a busy lunch service. You might have a little break in the afternoon. That break, you'd go to the pub. You drink on your break. You go back. You do evening shift. You close down the kitchen. You go out again. and you just keep repeating, and you just because you're the same team, you're the same group of people, just doing it together constantly. And I wouldn't like. Well, I mean, it was quite a while ago, but I definitely wasn't doing it for. It would just be part of the like.
And you didn't want to break it.
Yeah,
you didn't be the one who broke.
Yeah, and like if all the team were going apart from me,
Yeah.
I'd feel like that's even why I started smoking.
And then
Like
you
when I
might
started
not
smoking
get
when I was
an invite
younger.
next time as well.
Yeah,
Like,
Yeah, when I started smoking when I was younger, it'd be like closing down the kitchen. Everybody who smokes goes out for a fag. If you're not smoking, you're cleaning the kitchen. So you're like, why am I cleaning the kitchen?
Yeah.
I'm gonna start smoking. So I started smoking, and then ironically, the reason I stopped smoking was because the kitchen I was working in was too busy. You're doing that too many hours. You didn't have time for a cigarette. So yeah, didn't help me at first and saved me in the end.
Yeah, so I think it's finding a way of having the confidence, which maybe comes with age,
Yeah.
to break that, and then to
Definitely,
find
yeah.
your own
Yeah, yeah.
new ways of that release, or even just being with people, but in a maybe more healthy environment. I hate myself for saying this, but I've just got into jumped on the paddle train.
Yeah.
But you know what? I've actually, by doing paddle now, I'm doing that with mates who I went to school with, who I haven't socialised with for 10 years. And actually being able just to suddenly just get an invite out of nowhere because they're just looking for people who want to be part of it. And then like doing it 8 o'clock at night on a Friday night, I'd be in the pub usually. But then actually now I'm reconnecting with friends who have not socialised with for 10 years. Not drinking because I'm going out there, and actually just putting that invite out to people. People want to connect generally with people, and there's a healthier way of being able to do that, because I think as men especially, we do tend to say, do you want to go for a drink? As our kind of social kind of, the mechanism to get together. And whilst that can be healthy and it can be good, it's not for everyone. So finding other ways is a really.
But even
important
now,
thing.
like with obviously low or no alcohol drinks, there's such a wider range, isn't there? And like even if you wanted to hide it, it'd be quite easy to like if you didn't want to be open about, oh, I'm drinking a 0% pint of beer.
Yeah,
it'd be quite easy to hide kind of thing, and like. Or even if you do go out initially, just do a backdoor boogie. Like you don't have to tell everyone you're going. They all get that smashed anyway. They ain't gonna remember when you left anyway. Just do a backdoor. Just go in the bar, just go in the toilet, and you don't see me again. But I think
Experienced a few of those.
I do that a lot. Like I think sometimes, obviously after a tough shift, like your first trail of thoughts to have a drink. I think it's a bit like, obviously you're not asleep on it before you decide to have a drink, but like sometimes if you're going to drive to wherever you're going, like for example, even on Saturday, I finished my shift and I was just like, I didn't necessarily want to get smashed, but I was like, I definitely want a pint. And then I got in my car, and as soon as I started driving after about 5 times, I'm like, I can't be arsed having a drink. I'm just going to go home. But I think we should do that more often.
It's putting those almost barriers in sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think from past experience, the reason why people go out after work is because they don't get much time to do that. Like hospitality team members, they spend their whole day making other people's experiences, and then you get to that like 12 o'clock and go, oh, everyone's going out. We can't get like a Saturday night off or a Friday night off or a Sunday lunchtime off, because they're the peak times where it's it's the place where it's like the busiest hustle and bustle. So you've gone through like this big journey of going through the highs of service, all the way down to like, okay, now I need to sort of chill out and relax. It does take a good 2 or 3 hours to sort of wind down to be able to just sit down and chill, because you do get this thing called like the service rush, like the adrenaline rush. You do get a buzz off it. Like no matter what anyone says, like you're in peak 7:30, 8 o'clock, you've got a bit of adrenaline going about you, and it is addictive, honestly. Like, and you've got the social aspect. So you go into work, you've got people that you've made plans with, you've got people that you've spoken to all day, you've talked about feelings. Like it's a proper buzz to be back in service. So people actually look forward to coming to work. Like, I used to look forward to coming in and speaking to XYZ person, and then seeing all these different bunches of people, different personalities, speaking to different guests, and you do get a buzz out of it. Like even though it is like you're finishing at 1 o'clock in the morning, I mean like when I was like a front of house manager, it was like 2 o'clock in the morning, and you go to the casino at 3 till 6, and then go back in at 9. Like,
But it's what's available as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're not gonna go play paddle tennis 2 in the
no,
morning.
I know. Yeah.
So
There's
it's what's
nothing open
available.
in the pub. And you've come out of that like the industry to go into another industry where it's the same sort of environment.
Yeah.
But I think even obviously talking about the stigma of mental health, it's almost like a stigma that because it's Friday, Saturday night, you've got to go out.
Yeah.
Like just
Got to make the most of it.
There's nothing wrong with like I prefer going out in off peak times. Like if I'm off on a whatever Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever, like it's quieter, you can do more. Stuff's usually cheaper. And yeah, you can do it at your own pace. Like you can still experience stuff. You don't have to experience a drink and a socialise with friends on a Friday, Saturday night after you've done 14 hours and you've had to go and do 14 hours again. It's just, yeah. I'm like, yeah, it does take a lot to wind down. But it's going to take even longer to wind down if you're going out after work, aren't you? Because you're just adding hours onto it. So, yeah.
So let's bring it back to Parogon then. So Ian, I think this is more directed to you. So what do we do as like a company for our team in regards to mental health? I know we've got Chasing the Stigma, like who we're proudly partnership with. We've got the amazing Sonia Dale, who is part of the People and Culture team, well, People and Culture manager. She's up the game in the sense of like what we do for our teams. But what do you want to do with the company, as in from today onwards, if there isn't some things?
I think certainly today helps. I think certainly today is making sure that people know that they can talk to people. I think what Sonia's done with first aid, mental health training has been terrific. We've had a few of those sessions now.
Yeah, I think it's 28 people are certified now, which is brilliant. Like all of our GMs.
Yeah, we want to keep doing that because that's definitely made a difference to people's outlook and feelings towards helping support their team. So we've done it from a senior point of view. So we want to keep doing that and make that a core part of what we do for every manager that works for us. So they're equipped as much as possible to deal with it. I think we want to highlight it as much as possible and give people more options. I know Sonia does a drop-in centre type of thing on a Friday where she's available to speak to people if they do have issues and they want to talk about problems that they've got, which I think would be really beneficial to people kind of acknowledge and support and be aware that that's available to them. And I think just generally just making opportunities for people to be able to talk about it, I think.
On top of Vitality and Hub of Hope and Chasing Stigma and everything else we also have Hospitality Action. We've been with Hospitality Action for a while. They don't just offer stuff that is there for mental health, anything, financial difficulties, trouble with your family at home, with your partner, this, that and the other. Easily accessible. And I'm pretty sure I know a few people within Parogon already who have used them for support and got support through them. So just a reminder that they're there also and not going away.
Cool. So what's one piece of advice you would give someone that is either looking for support, just one quick little bit of advice from like the people around the room or around the table? So start off for you, Jake, I think.
For people who are
looking for support, I think.
What I would say to anyone, whether they're looking for support for themselves or they're looking for support for somebody else, is to know that there are options. It doesn't have to be one size fits all. Find what works for you or for the person that you're looking for help and support with. Try it. If it doesn't work, it doesn't mean that you've played all your cards. Go back, give yourself the chance to find what works for you in the same way that you would in any other field of life. So look for the help and support that's available. Try it. If it's not for you, then look for something else. But always give yourself the best chance to find what's going to work for you.
Cool. Yeah.
I think the go-to kind of similar to what I said earlier, but don't make long-term decisions based on short-term events. Life does get easier. It is a bit of a journey, and you need to kind of reach out and speak to people and acknowledge it. I think we talked about loads of warning signs today and things that you can do to kind of make things easier. But yeah, probably that resilience, building resilience. It's okay to not feel okay. I think every single person in the world has problems in their life, and things do get easier.
Brilliant.
I think for me, it's not. Well, it is advice, but it's not necessarily advice to go for support. But I think I would touch on it a bit. It's like, obviously, almost like prehabilitation. You know, don't wait for something to be, well, however bad it can be at its peak before you start doing something about it. You know, even if it's small steps, like drinking one less energy drink, not going out every night, going out one less night, and just trying to make yourself physically and mentally feel better. Because then, you know, I think, like, I know for myself, when feel better mentally, well, if I feel better physically, I automatically feel better mentally as well. And like, I feel better, I can perform better, life's just seems happier. You look at the positives and things, rather when you don't feel great physically, it then starts affecting me mentally. You know, if stuff feels more challenging, and, you know, like, yeah, everything feels like a chore, and I just, like, I don't know, feel pains or whatever, and then just everything just multiplies. And then, yeah, like I said before, is look after number one. You know, self-care isn't selfish. Like you said, you play golf, you do a bit of gaming, you know, that's important to you. And like, if you didn't have that, then your life might be worse and your partner's life might be worse. And like, I go to the gym 3 hours a week, 3 sessions a week, and like, that makes a big difference to my mental health. And look after number one. I think one last bit is, which I wanted to touch on, which I haven't really touched on, is like the difference between sympathy and empathy. Like, I think, maybe half the reason is because people don't think I'm sympathetic or I'm not emotional, but I think there's a big difference between like being empathetic and sympathetic. Like, just because maybe I don't say things that people say when they're trying to be sympathetic, but I do have empathy for pretty much everyone. You know, I've been in, you know, bad scenarios that I've had to get myself out of. I've got plenty of life experience, especially in this industry. Worked in different places, so I do have empathy for a lot of people, and I've probably been, obviously not completely in their shoes, but in aspects of their shoes. So, yeah, that's it for me.
I think there's a really important thing that you've said there as well about, and it's a point that you made as well about having that time yourself. And sometimes we can think that giving yourself time, whether it's to play golf or whether it's to go to the gym or whatever else it might be, is selfish. But you, to give your best self, to be your best self, to give your best self, whether that's to your partner, your kids, your workplace, whatever it might be, to be able to take the steps that you need to take to be your best self is not selfish. That's giving yourself the best chance to be the best you to all of those people in your life. And so I think we do need to try to shift that idea that it is selfish, because it's really, really easy for us to find excuses not to give ourselves that time. Like, just a really like basic example, but I would always love the idea of like reading at night, and I'd never ever do it because I'd go, I don't have time to read at night. But then when my son wanted to read the Harry Potter books, I read to him every single night, and I found the time for him, but never found the time for myself. And it's because I just made him the priority. I kind of never looked at myself having that same priority of saying, carve the time out. Like, of course I had time to do it, I just never prioritized it. So I think that was a lesson for me of going, actually, you can do that. You just don't want to do it enough, or you're not giving yourself the reason or the excuse to do it enough. So I think it's shifting that idea of making yourself the best version of yourself as being a selfish thing, because it's not. It's what everybody wants you to be, and then you can present yourself the best way to everybody.
Yeah, I think it's like committing to it, isn't it? And putting that time aside. Like, going back to the gym as well. Like, I changed my gym about 6 months ago, so I went through a period where I wasn't going, and like, I didn't feel my best mentally and physically. And the point in my life where I was at my best, where I felt probably most physical fit, most mental fit, was when it was almost like semi-PT, so my sessions were set in stone. So if I missed my session, that was it. I couldn't go again. Whereas if you sign up to a gym like Pure Gym, where it's 24/7, you're always putting it off. Oh, I don't feel like doing it today. I'll do it tomorrow. Yeah. And then before you know it, the week's gone and you've not worked out. Yeah. So if you put that time aside and go, I'm definitely going there, non-negotiable. I'm definitely going there, non-negotiable. And everything else around your life, you move around to support that. And then, like you said, you find like time's just an illusion. You shouldn't measure it. You should experience it.
There's your quote.
Yeah. There's your opener.
Get that on LinkedIn.
Yeah, that'd be the thumbnail at the start of this. I think the bit of advice I would give to someone is don't think you can't do it, because I think if you've got anything, tying you down, if you've got things that you think, oh, I can't do that, I can't do this, just tell your brain you're gonna do it. Like there's so many things that you hear about being pessimistic and stuff like that. I like to think like you can do anything if you want to do it. Like if you got the time, if you haven't got the time, if you think you can do it and give it a go, you can do anything. Like there's so many different scenarios where we've got probably about 60 years of hospitality experience. So we know if we've done it or it doesn't work. But I think if you think you can do it, do it.
Yeah, I think on that as well. I think in my experience as well, and probably everyone's experience, your mind gives up before your body. Your mind will tell you you can't do something, but your body can do it. So, yeah, just keep just stop listening. Well, sometimes you gotta not listen to what you're telling yourself you can't do and just do it. And then when you do it, you're like, oh yeah, I can do it. And then you keep doing that, and like a bit like resilience, you build up like those experiences. Like you can push yourself a bit more. Whether that's, I don't know, sometimes the hardest thing is just getting in the car, isn't like. You're scared of going somewhere or you don't want to do it. It's the unknown you've never been before. Sometimes the most difficult thing is actually just getting in the car or getting on the bus or actually walking there and just doing it. And when you get there, it's never as bad as what you imagined it to be, kind of thing. So, yeah.
So, you touched upon your kids just then. Is it your son?
Yeah.
So you've got kids yourselves. How's that in the world of hospitality? Raising a child, going through paternity, I think it's like 2 to 3 weeks off, but how is it raising children as a dad and working in hospitality? I think we'll crack on with you Ian and Neve.
Yeah.
You lived and raised Neve above one of our sites, so you couldn't really escape it.
yeah, there wasn't a lot of escape. And it was particularly more difficult because when she was 2, me and her mother broke up, so at that time it was kind of like 50-50. So there was, up at 6 o'clock in the morning, kind of, I don't want to say it's kind of like single dad, but it was really tough to begin with. Trying to figure out what to do as well, and also in hospitality, you'd do the 6 o'clock get up, and then you'd go to nursery, and then I'd work all day, and then you'd go and pick her up in the evening, and then kind of like, you got this little person that you've got to give all your attention to. It is good exhausting, but it's exhausting, and it is difficult. But as kids get older, it gets easier. You kind of learn, and I think it goes back to what I said before. Like you're constantly learning, you're constantly building yourself and going on a journey of how to deal with things. And now it's really easy. She's an absolute dream. She's wonderful. Makes it all worth it.
Jamie, how are you getting on with Wilf and Nella?
Yeah, I think for me, on kids in general, when I first had Ella, I think just randomly a switch must have gone in my brain, and I just felt a bit more chilled. I think I had more clarity in obviously I probably used to be one of the most, talking about being selfish, before I had Ella, the only person I really gave a shit about, you probably have to edit that out, was myself. All I had to worry about was myself, my job, and serving this good food. And obviously that used to get me quite stressed out if people weren't performing, and maybe the way I spoke to people wasn't right, or I just stressed myself out and just this, that, and the other. But just as soon as I had a kid, I was just like, life's too short. Why am I getting worked up about X, Y, Z? Just chill out. And then just over time, I think I've become more chilled and mellowed and got more clarity and can, think about what I say and what I do before I do it. And even if I am thinking about it and it doesn't work out, start again, try and resolve it a different way. But yeah, on the whole like family thing as well, it's like sometimes like I saw this thing the other day and I thought it was quite cool. It's like obviously everybody's got a lot on the plate, but everybody's got different types of plates. Like I've probably got a pretty big plate, but I'd say I've managed to make it quite strong. So I've got 2 kids from 2 different women. I'm an exec chef of loads of people. Obviously, whoever makes a mistake in the kitchens, I'm the one who faces the brunt of it. Obviously, balancing all that in 7 days, like days off, school runs, nursery pickups, this, that, and the other. And that's before I even talk about work. It's difficult. So sometimes maybe when people do have issues, maybe in the past I would have thought, well, you haven't got half as much on your plate as I've got on my plate. But obviously people got different plates. I've got a big chop plate that's sturdy. They might have a paper plate that's ripped, put back together with sellotape. They've only got one thing on it, but if someone else goes on it, that's them. And like, again, that goes a bit to like empathy and, not everybody's the same. People struggle with different things. And, I don't really worry about what other people do, just try or what they've got or what they haven't got or what I haven't got, try and not worry in general, just look after yourself, enjoy your own life and do your own thing and don't worry about what other people are doing, but don't treat people differently because you might have more problems than them kind of thing. So yeah.
No, it's been good. It's been good today to actually speak to each other about stuff like this because 90% is either work or personal stuff. But you can probably all agree it's been nice to have someone like Jake here as well to keep us on track, which has been good.
You definitely made a case for playing more golf.
It's at. But no, with World Suicide Prevention Day coming up on Wednesday, I think, isn't it? Suicide is the biggest killer in males under the age of 40. So that's a massive figure. When I looked at it, it's like, oh my god, something needs to be done about it. But we've got 600 up to 600 employees within Parogon, and there's bound to be a lot of people that want to speak openly. And within men and chefs and managers and servers and bartenders, we've got a massive pool of people that probably just don't speak and just keep it all tucked in and just do the shift and go home.
Mm-hmm. And those people will be going home to dads and brothers and uncles and nephews and partners and husbands. People have got lives and people outside of the jobs as well, and so it's important that we look at people as people and not just as employees. And that's why we're really kind of honoured to be working with you and being able to reach people in their workplace as well as all your customers as well. We know that we can help so many people, and I'd just like to just take a minute as well just to kind of thank you all for what you are doing to help us and to support us. I've got figures. I'm going to be reading these because they are kind of quite stark, really. We as a charity are a very small charity based in Liverpool, but we're a national reach. I've talked about why I created the charity and why we created the Hub of Hope. And for me, still, it shocks me constantly how used the Hub of Hope is. And just in this year alone, so between January and June 2025, the Hub of Hope has had a massive growth. Nearly 161,000 people accessed the Hub of Hope between January and June this year, with over 247,000 sessions, which is a 38.5% increase from the year before. In total, users conducted more than 3 million searches for support. That's the equivalent of around 400 searches every hour. Like, this is an unbelievable amount of people who relying on a resource that isn't funded. You know, we're not funded. We're used by NHS. We're used by government. We're used by huge organisations. You know, there'll be things at train stations up and down the country. You know, there's big corporate organisations who use us as part of what they do, and we're not funded to do what we do. And that's why when I say working with yourselves and having the support from you from fundraising activities that you have, whether that's desserts, whether that is golf days, whatever else it may be, really makes a huge difference to us, because we're helping so many people and not being supported to do it. So it means the absolute world for us to be working with you, not only from the financial side that you can help us with, but the amount of people that we can continue to reach and help and support. So it just, those numbers it's important to remember the people. They're people who are trying to give themselves a chance, trying to give their loved ones a chance. So yeah, we should never lose sight of that. But yeah, I just wanted to take the opportunity to thank not only you guys here for what you've done today and the vulnerability that you showed, but everybody associated with Parogon and helping us do what we do.
Brilliant. Cheers, Jake. And I think it's nice to mention as well, like, Chasing the Stigma was chosen by our team. So with polls and everything, this is what our team wanted, which, I mean, I voted for you guys as well, but I didn't know about you before until you did a bit of research. So it's good to hear about all the brilliant things and the stats. That's mental. Like to see how many people are using Hub of Hope. And I think from this as well, I hope that it's actually been a good day so that people watch this and, you know, see us uncomfortably at the start, you know, getting to talk about our vulnerability and our past experiences. So I think that's brilliant for us. And thank you guys for coming.
Thank you for organising it and putting it on.
No, so I think that's it. I think we've extinguished everything, but I just want to thank everyone again. Jake, brilliant. Thank you for coming up today. And I think I want to do this a lot more and talk, you know, openly about different subjects and have pretty much, like a podcast or a way that we can naturally open ourselves up to team members. And I hope that team will be able to speak to us. And this is a conversation starter to say, have you seen the podcast? Or, you know, use this as a way of going, Jamie, let me talk to you about something.
Nobody should be ashamed of reaching out. All of us are accessible. Nobody should be ashamed of reaching out to any of us. We've always found time for people.
Oh, yeah, 100%. But no, thank you very much. And tune in next time for the next podcast. Thanks, guys.
Cheers.
That's all right.
That's fine.
The red button.
And end recording.